I think Ross sold your social media stocks. Is this the sort of reason why, or is it just noise?
Well, we sold our social media stocks for two reasons. One, we do think social media use has peaked, and with the advent of inventions like screen time, I think we're all spending a lot less time on social media for our health. And then secondly, yeah, these companies were subverted by the Russians. It's clear that there's liability here. They clearly were willfully blind, and I think as these investigations get deeper and deeper, we're going to see some pretty ugly things come out of Facebook and Instagram as well as Twitter, and it's only going to get worse and worse. I've been saying it on this show for now 6 or 7 months, and it's going to keep getting worse.
Paul, meantime, you think some of this is overblown and it presents buying opportunities when we see the stock sell off on some of this data privacy type fears?
I concur that social media within the tech sector aren't particularly good buys now. Out of the three that you mentioned, Twitter, Facebook, and Google, I think Google with a tight buy limit of $1,000 per share is a decent combination of relative value and growth, particularly long-term beyond digital advertising into things, if they do score, like autonomous vehicles. In the meantime, Twitter I haven't really been a fan of, and of course I'm not going to buy Twitter even when it's down, when it's gone 3 or 4-fold since its bottom a couple years ago at 14. Facebook, I worry not necessarily about the top line. I disagree with the other contributor talking about a peaking permanently in usage. I'm worried about the added expenses Facebook and others will have to spend to essentially be more on top of these privacy issues. So the way I look at these things is, when you take a look at previous generations, this did not exist as a communications medium. And so when I hear these accusations, I take a quick look at them and I say, okay, is it something devious? Is it something intentional? And I think in most of these situations it is not. It's just a very rapid ramp in a relatively new, even though we've been around since the 90s, communication medium, and they're going to miss some things. It's part of the growing pains. But when the previous contributor said, willfully blind, maybe blind. I don't agree with willfully.
Well, you don't make the kind of money Zuck and Cheryl are making doing it.
Ross, do you think, more importantly, that they will be reprimanded and there will be repercussions to the extent you think they deserve, or do you think this is kind of already priced in these stock prices?
I'm not sure how far the government's going to go here, because the current administration benefited greatly, and maybe even won because of this manipulation. And I think Trump's attempts to deflect the attention away from the investigations by blaming them for being biased towards the liberals is almost, laughable. I think we've all given tech leaders a pass on their morals for way too long. These are not good people. They have acted incredibly to the detriment of this country, and it's time to pay, man. It's just time for them to pay. They've made billions personally off of this, and I think it's disgusting.
I mean, clearly, Mike, Ross is echoing a sentiment that's out there. I guess what I'm wondering is, and the president's tweet and all of this, everybody's complaining about them for different reasons, and it's unclear to see what kind of regulation could actually come out of all of this.
It is very hard, right? So is it just that you have to constantly be vigilant and kind of scrub your user base of fraudulent activity and fake memberships and all the rest of it? Or do advertisers basically say, you know what, we're not going to trust your targeting tools because we think there's a lot of fraud in there?
I talk to big advertisers and they say we're still on Facebook because that's where the critical mass is.
Right, and that seems to be where the return on investment is and all the rest of it. So it's very tough to see exactly what happens except for a psychological threat. Look, you could make the case that the stocks were overvalued because people thought that it was just going to be unending growth and very high profit margins, and Facebook was never going to have to ramp costs as much as they have and all the rest of it. But to say that the business model is going to be disrupted, I mean, it's plausible, but it's hard to see how it happens.
Paul, quickly, what's your top pick in this space? What do you still own?
Out of the stocks that you've mentioned, the only one I would buy is Google because of that combination of growth potential, reasonable valuation. I'd stay away from Twitter most definitely, and even Facebook right now. And if I do go into Google, I have a pretty tight buy limit of $1,000 a share. It seems to, for the last couple of years, have definite support there. But you know what? I don't rush into anything, and let's see what happens.